Here's the diagnostics endpoint for my SpiderLog API. It's a standard API call, so it returns JSON, which includes generally useful things like the current server date and time in UTC and in local time to the server. That's handy if you have some API calls filtering by date which aren't working, and you can see if the server is on a different time zone from the client. Things like the server name and IP addresses are also useful for verifying your infrastructure setup, but then the diagnostic response includes a set of checks which are specific to each API project. Those are checking that the API can get to its downstream dependencies, and you put into them as much information as you are going to find useful. So this API uses a SQL database, and the check tells me the name of the server and database, and it also verifies that it can connect, which gives me a status of OK. Similarly, there are cache store checks and downstream API checks. The health check object has nested health checks, so you can group components together and build up a hierarchical view over the state of your service and all its dependencies. A diagnostics endpoint like this is a custom build for your API, but it's a simple thing to do, and the couple of hours it will take can easily be saved in problem-solving time later. The diagnostics endpoint is a useful tool for checking the environment is set up correctly, and the API can access all the components that it needs to use. Exposing it as JSON means you can easily build up a dashboard to show the health of your API, and get an early warning if a service you rely on becomes unavailable. It's possible that your diagnostics endpoint will contain confidential information, so it needs to have an extra level of security. It should obviously be HTTPS, and you may want to use custom authentication like I have with this auth token, or an obfuscated URL to reduce the chances of someone maliciously getting access to your infrastructure details. Or you may have a public endpoint which just returns an overall status of red or green, so users can check your API is running correctly, and have extra security around the more detailed data for internal users only.